A lot of people think that success in short-term rentals is all about having beautiful photos and some kind of clever pricing strategy. But they're missing the point. The single most important decision you'll ever make happens way before you even think about furniture. It all starts with the property itself. So, before you spend another dollar or another minute planning, you really have to ask yourself this one simple question. Where does success in this business actually begin? And here's the thing that the pros get that most beginners miss. A drop-dead gorgeous property in the wrong location or with a layout that just doesn't work for the right kind of guest, well, that's a recipe for a real struggle. You just can't style your way out of a bad fit. It doesn't work.
See, choosing your property isn't just one decision among many. It's the foundation. It's the cornerstone of your entire business, and it literally shapes every single thing that comes after.
I want you to think of it like a chain reaction. The property you pick, that immediately determines who you can even attract as a guest, and that dictates how you should furnish and set it up, which in turn defines what you can realistically charge, and it even helps predict your chances of getting those all-important 5-star reviews. It all flows from that one initial choice. This right here is why so many new hosts get completely burned out. They start with a property that's a fundamental mismatch for the market, and then they try to fix that deep-seated problem with fancy marketing or pretty pictures. It's kind of like trying to fix a crack in your foundation with a fresh coat of paint. You end up fighting an impossible uphill battle. And that brings us to the core concept of this whole explainer, and it's a term I want you to remember: property fit. This is your new North Star. It's not about finding a nice property. It's about finding a property that fits perfectly with the local market, with your ideal guest, and with your ability to run it without pulling your hair out. Okay, so that sounds great, but how do you actually find this property fit? Well, we can break it all down into 4 simple pillars. This is going to be your strategic tool for looking at any property and seeing its true potential. Here they are: location fit, guest fit, layout fit, and operations fit. I want you to think of this as your personal fit test. A property that scores high on all 4 of these is built on solid ground. But a low score in any one of these areas, well, that's a blinking red light telling you exactly where your future headaches are going to be. All right, let's dive into the first 2 pillars together, because location and guest fit are totally connected. You really can't understand one without thinking about the other. This is probably the biggest mindset shift you need to make as a host. Stop asking, is this a nice-looking property? And instead, start asking, why would a specific person want to stay in this exact location? See, every guest is on a mission. Maybe it's a business trip, a family vacation, a romantic getaway, and your property has to be the perfect home base for that mission. Let me give you an example. A slick, modern studio apartment right downtown, that's a perfect fit for a solo business traveler who just needs convenience and easy access to meetings. But that same traveler has zero interest in a big suburban home. That property, on the other hand, is a much better fit for a family that needs space, a full kitchen, and is probably looking for easy access to local parks or attractions. The property has to match the guest's mission. And here's the magic. When you absolutely nail that guest fit, everything else just clicks into place. Suddenly, your marketing gets a whole lot easier, your pricing feels totally justified, and your reviews start climbing because you are perfectly meeting a very specific need. Now let's move on to the next 2 pillars, which are all about the practical reality of what it's like to actually stay in your place. This is where a property proves it's more than just a pretty picture online. This is something so many first-time hosts completely overlook. Look, your listing photos get you the booking. Absolutely. But the actual layout, the usability of the space, that's what determines the guest's real experience. And ultimately, that's what determines their review. I mean, think about it. We've all seen a space, or maybe even stayed in one, that looks incredible in photos, but is just a nightmare to actually live in. Maybe there's nowhere to put your suitcase, the bathroom is tiny and inconvenient, or the kitchen is all style and no substance. A practical, comfortable space will almost always get a better review than a stylish but awkward one. And finally, we have operations fit. This is where you have to put on your business manager hat. You've got to ask these tough questions before you commit. Is getting into the property a huge hassle for guests? Is this old building going to be a maintenance nightmare? Can my cleaners reliably get in and out and do a great job? You have to think about the day-to-day grind. So please, remember this. A property can be beautiful, it can be in the perfect location, but if it's an operational nightmare to run, it's just going to drain your profits and your sanity. The real goal here is a business that runs smoothly, day in and day out. So, we've walked through the 4 pillars. Now let's just quickly look at why getting this right from the very beginning gives you what is almost an unfair advantage in the market.
This chart really lays out the two paths you can go down. With a weak fit, you're always fighting. You're forced to compete on price, your reviews are all over the place, and your business feels like you're constantly putting out fires. But with a strong fit, you can price based on the real value you provide, you get consistently great reviews, and your operations just work because they're built on the property's natural strengths.
And that is the big payoff. All this strategic thinking you do up front pays off again and again by reducing friction in every single part of your business down the road. You're not trying to force performance out of a property. You're letting it flow naturally from a great foundation.
If you only take one single thing away from this explainer today, please let it be this. Success in this business isn't about luck, and it's not just about styling. Long-term, sustainable success is built on one thing above all else: fit.
So as we wrap up, here's my challenge to you. The next time you look at a property, whether it's one you already own or one you're thinking about buying, ask yourself this one brutally honest question. Does this place truly match a real guest's need, or have I just fallen in love with how it looks? Your answer to that question is the first real step to thinking like a pro.